Hi, TBC. How are you? Can you hear me okay? And how's the music? Is it... I want you to be able to hear it, but I don't want it to be distracting. Is it a good volume? I want you to be able to see Jasper there. He's so cute. Jasper, I know you're awake. I know you're awake, little man. Jasper. Let's see if Scuzzlebutt will join us, or Luna, or Lucy. Scuzzlebutt! Luna, Lucy, kitty, 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 kitties. Well, there's Jasper perking up. Hey, Jasper Doodle. What's up, little man? December's here. It's December's birthday weekend. So hey, December, did you find out about the Fortnite event, the big final event? Is it sometime this evening? I asked Carrie and she didn't know. Luna's here. Hi, Luna. Come here. I know you don't want me to pick you up, but I really want you to say hi to my friends. Come here, I didn't torture you. I didn't torture you. Come on. Come on up. Come on up. So we're just kind of hanging out here for a few minutes, letting some folks join before we get to reading. We're on chapter 13 of Skin of the Sea. Luna, come here. The event is at 4 o'clock. Is it something that's going to continue, or is it something you have to be there right at 4 o'clock for? Like, is it something? How long is the event? What do you know about it? Anything? Luna, come here. Come on. Hi. Hi. Little cutie cat. So who else here? Let's get a show of hands. I can see that there are 4 viewers, but I only see TBC and December in the chat. Is anyone else here? There's Carrie. Probably 20 minutes, Carrie says. Okay, so we got to be there right at 4 o'clock for the event or we'll miss it, right? Okay. Well, we'll make sure we don't read as long as we did last week. It was almost 4 hours of reading this book because it's so darn good. But we're going to have to stop, you know, to eat before we have our Fortnite event, you know. You have to be there in the queue at 4, December says. Okay, all right. I'm thinking we'll probably read this book for a couple of hours. Couple hours. We'll see. We'll see how we feel, you know? Play it by ear. So who's here? December, Carrie, TBC. You still here, TBC? I don't see Julie. I don't see Realm. I don't see Teresa or Meta. So what should we do? Should we just get started? And if folks show up late, they can just catch the replay later for whatever they missed. And how is the volume on the music? Everybody okay with the music volume? It's not gonna distract from the book? All right, I'm gonna be right back. I'm just gonna add a little more coffee to my cup, and then we'll get started. Luna, what are you doing? Where's Scuzzlebud? Scuzzlebud, kitty, kitty, kitty. Scuzzlebuzzle, kitty, kitty, kitty. Loonbug, kitty, kitty, kitty. All right. What do you think, everybody? Who's ready for some mermaid action? I am. Luna's ready. Luna's ready. Come on, Loon. Come on. Come on. Come on up. Come on up. Come on. I won't pick you up. Don't worry. Y'all are quiet. All right, I say we get started. And again, we are reading Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. We are on chapter 13. We don't know anything for sure yet, I say to Kola, trying to keep my tone calm. But why didn't he tell me about the twins before? Is it just that he doesn't trust me? He acted as if summoning Yamoja was his first time meeting an Orisa, and now this. And then I think of his need to protect the children, and not mentioning their power makes more sense. At the thought of kept secrets, I think of my vision. Perhaps I should say something about the death, the Yumbos, and the village. Shuddering, I push thoughts of it away. I try to tell myself that what I saw doesn't mean anything, but even as I think this, I know it's not true. But I do know that I can't tell anyone else about it until I understand what it means myself. Both Kola and Salif are worried enough. Before I can give it more thought, the older Yumbo claps his hands together. I hope all of you are well. Do not worry. We will work on finding out what this means. All signs need to be understood, not feared, just because they are unknown. So, in the interim, let us finish the feast. The Yumbos nod at Salif's instruction. The Oleran Lowo flit about, clearing the silver platters and banking the fire as the sun dips behind the tree line. Yumbos, the energy seemingly drawn out of them, are dotted in groups around the glade, speaking quietly. There is one more thing that adds to what has happened. I am not sure if this is connected, and I do not wish to worry the others, so I will say this only to you two. Salif turns to us with a solemn face, his hands clasped in front of him. Some of the Yumbos have been out gathering, and our brothers have only just returned. Salif pauses before picking up the wooden cup again and then putting it down. They overheard the men talk of Asu on the borders of our lands. Asu? I ask uneasily. Why would his name be mentioned? It is not the first time we have heard it lately, says Salif. There are rumors. Go on, says Kola, his face drawn as he swallows carefully. I see worry and concern in the molten amber of Salif's eyes, and I think I know what he's going to say. Rumors that he is searching for something. Oya said the same. If the Babalawo has the rings and Taiwo and Kahindi are in Oko, I look over at Kolo, the worry I feel matching the expression on his face. We need to leave, I say quietly, my words taut with apprehension. First Asu arrives on Abeomi's ship, and now his presence is being spoken about closer to Oko. Kolo nods, his expression as grim as mine as he gets to his feet. Allow us to present you with supplies, says Salif, tasking his grandson with the responsibility. Issa, the job giving him some energy, orders the other Yumbos around, changing the water skins they have for bigger ones and inspecting all the fish wrapped in banana leaves. You have to fold them tight or they will spoil, he admonishes a boy larger than him. The Yumbo huffs but begins to wrap the food again. Issa nods in satisfaction and then darts over to Kola. I want to help, he says. Come now, Issa, let them prepare, says Salif, tucking the boy under his arm. But I can help. The Yumbo darts from under his grandfather's grip and runs over to us, his eyes never leaving Kola. He snatches the sack from a Yumbo heading toward us. Dragging it quickly along, he drops it at our feet and looks up at us, golden eyes shining. I can guide you to Oko. That's where you are heading, no? At this, Kolo bends down, a slight smile on his lips. We appreciate your hospitality, but you are very young. Your place is here. Please, Issa cries and turns to Sľīv. Grandfather, they might get lost, or they'll take a long way and not get there for days. We all felt, whatever that was earlier, they need to get to Oko fast, and I can help them do that. Kola stills at the mention of time, and I know he is wavering. Grandfather, I've scouted before. Please let me. I know all the paths and tracks to take, the routes to avoid. Issa puffs his narrow chest out. They need me. I consider the Yumbo with his tiny stick-like arms on his pointed chin. He flips his head, pushing plates from his eyes and watching Kola, who looks down at him with a tenderness that makes me uneasy. We don't need someone else to look after. Kola, I don't think that's a good idea. It could take you days if you don't go the right way, says Issa, offering Kola a grin. I can get you there in half the time. It would help, says Kola softly. Issa beams at him and then turns his honey gaze on me. I can do it, Simi, I can. Kola places a hand on his shoulder and looks at me too. If he can guide us there, we need him. Besides, he pats Issa on his head. You'll be good company. I will be, Agbono Kunrin. The Yumbo grins up at Kola, jiggling from foot to foot. I frown. What does Issa think he's doing, already calling Kola big brother? But his smile is sweet, and we really can't afford to waste any more time getting to the village. I nod. If Esu does know the rings are in Oko, we need to get there first. Grandfather? Asks Issa. Sļīv takes a moment to think before answering the Yumbo. I give you my permission, little one, but only as a guide. He holds a finger up. Nothing else. Issa scrambles around the sack, tripping. I will get my things. You will need to come straight back after they reach Oko, says Sļīv. Straight back. I will, Issa throws over his shoulder as he scurries off. I'll look after him as if he were my little brother, says Kola, pressing his open palm to his heart. I promise. Make sure that you do, Sļīv bows, mirroring Kola's action. I would like to know what caused the feeling that affected us. We need to know if we are still safe here. December says Yumbos are a type of fairy in West African mythology. Cool. Yeah, they seem like little elves, you know. He waits as Kola checks the bag, extracting a short sword that he slips into the tight folds of his wrapper. We are grateful, Sļīv, to have saved me, and now to allow us a guide. We are blessed. You have my thanks, and as much corn as you wish to take once I get back to Oko. I will collect on that promise, answers Sļīv, managing to crack a small smile as Issa runs back, giving him a quick hug before he comes to stand by our sides. One more thing we can give you. Sļīv holds out a tiny bag. The Abada allows us to harvest part of her horns every few years. There is a small amount in there. It can be mixed with water to drink or used to make a poultice. Either way, it will cure almost anything. Sļīv nods solemnly. We will bless your journey with dance and prayer. While Issa tucks the powder into the sack with our supplies, Kola nods, returning the gesture. And I thank you for rescuing me and making both of us welcome. I will be back, says the small Yumbo, throwing a grin at his grandfather. Do not worry. Sļīv reaches down and kisses Issa on both of his cheeks, taking a moment to stare into his eyes. Remember, stay safe and return once you have guided them. The Yumbo nods eagerly, spinning away to grab at the sack, but Kola plucks it from Issa's grip, ignoring the boy's protests. The rest of the Yumbos begin to sing softly as the gangan drums begin again, beats that reverberate all around, bidding us goodbye as we head toward the sunset-soaked tree line. Issa skips ahead, moving fast as he chatters to Kola, taking pride in leading us through the easiest paths. And what is this plant, Abura Okunrin? Kola points to a large bush, its leaves spiny and dark green. Little brother. Issa lifts his face to Kola as he talks about the Nganda coffee plant, plucking some of the ripened cherries that produce beans. My grandfather loves the bitter drink they make, and so I collect lots for him. Issa tucks the cherries into the bag and skips ahead, looking back over his shoulder at us. Come on, this way. We follow the Yumbo through the forest, moving quickly through the crash of olive and lime foliage. Issa selects pathways that skirt white mahogany and pear trees, leading us deeper where the air is more humid and the smell of the rich earth rises to greet us with every footstep. He talks nonstop, making Kola laugh at one point. I drop back a little, my feet aching already. Flexing my toes, I take a moment to stretch the arches, taking a sip of water. Kola and Isa continue walking, the setting sun blazing through the canopy. The Yumbo reaches up and takes Kola's hand, hopping and jumping to keep up with the boy's stride. I hear another giggle and feel a shade of envy at how easy they are together already. Worse, I still can't push away the mention of Esu. That he has been rumored to be nearby only makes my stomach twist even tighter into knots. I force myself to quicken my pace as Kola turns around, looking back for me. How much farther, Isa? I wipe my face, feeling sweat trickle into the folds of my wrapper. It is an uncomfortable feeling, and one I haven't experienced for a while. We'll reach the river soon, says Isa as he pushes a large leaf out of his way. And then Oko is a few hours' walk from there. We should... The rest of the Yumbo's words are swallowed by the cracking sounds that echo around the forest. We freeze. An owl calls out in the distance as the night claws more light from the day, and then the noise is there again, louder this time and coming nearer. Trees shake, and it sounds as if thunder is striking the ground. Kola? He doesn't answer, but lifts Isa and backs up, standing slightly in front of me. My breath comes in panicked exhalations as the first creature bursts out of the trees directly in front of us. White tusks flash in the gloom, along with ears that hang down in great loops of tough gray skin. The large elephant sweeps a sapling out of her path, trumpeting loudly. Lifting her thick gray legs, she barrels toward us, her eyes shining and rolling with fear. I drag Kola to the side as the elephant sweeps toward us, trampling bushes in her path, making way for the rest of the herd behind her. With our backs pressed against the rough bark of a white mahogany tree, I hold my breath as she stampedes past us, 4 smaller cows following with 2 calves that they shove along between them. One falls to the ground and cries out, but its mother nudges and pulls, dragging her baby up before it can be crushed. None look at us or take any notice of our presence. They move fast, running hard and leaving a ruined path of forest behind them. They can sense something too, Isa says, from the safety of Kola's arms. He wriggles free and takes a tentative step in the direction of the elephants came from. This is the way we need to head. Of course it is. Peering ahead as the shadows creep through the trees, I swallow and take 2 steps forward. Then let's go. I walk as fast as the ache in my feet will allow me, pushing the growing pain to the back of my mind. The elephants have cleared a path, but I can't stop thinking about the fear in their eyes and the way the young calf was nearly stamped on in their haste to get away. From what? Salif said that the Yumbos had felt a disconnection from the land. Was that enough to scare the animals? I think of my vision and the rumors of Esu as another trickle of sweat runs down my back. I slip my fingers into the tight braids that crown my hair and pull out the dagger, flicking its blade free. The weapon makes me feel better, but not by much. We pick our way through the destruction of the forest until my soles feel as if they are on fire with raw pain. I fight the urge to limp, relieved when I feel a tug deep in my stomach and my skin crackles as if the scales are trying to slice their way through. Water. It's close by. I can feel it. Hobbling a little faster, I'm rewarded with the rushing sounds of a river. If I can soak in the water for a bit, I know I'll feel better. The sound is clear now and growing louder, permeating the still night air that wraps around us. Isa scampers next to me and points to a bend. There, a river, he announces, as the muted sound grows louder. He speeds ahead of me, little legs pumping as he vaults a fallen tree before spinning to face me. One we need to cross. We follow the Yumbo as he pushes through the undergrowth until the flowing water is revealed. I gaze around warily, trying to find a clue to what the elephants were running from, but there's nothing apart from the scent of stones and mud with an underlying rot. I push the unusual smell out of my mind and place the dagger back among my braids. Rivers are different from seas, that's all. Twilight shades the rocks that line the banks, and trees loom over the fast-running current. The eddying water calls to me, and I slink forward, eager to feel its coolness. I bend down, dipping a hand into the river, exhaling as I feel the silky slip of it, the thought of submerging myself in it, all-encompassing. It looks deep, says Kola, peering over my shoulder. Will it help? Startled, I pause in reaching down before nodding. He noticed, I think, feeling a warmth spread across my chest and up my neck. I thought I had hidden the pain well. Good, Kola adds softly, his eyes lingering on me for a moment before he pads after the Yumbo. Agbono Kunrin, we can cross just over here. Isa parts a large leaf to reveal the first slats of a wooden bridge held together with thick rope. Are you sure this will take my weight? Kola eyes it critically. I'm definitely not as light as a Yumbo. Yes, it can hold many people, answers Isa, scampering ahead to the bridge. He jumps a few times to show us how sturdy it is. See? I watch them from the bank, feet already eased into the water, the scales developing quickly, the pain in my soles disappearing as my fin forms. Isa is already across the bridge, waving at Kola happily, the silver in his hair glittering in the moonlight. I submerge more of my legs until they fuse, gold and pink scales glinting. It feels so good that my eyelids flutter with pleasure and relief. I let the river swallow me, dipping underneath its surface and spinning in the chilled water. When I head back to the humid air, Kola is halfway across the bridge, and Isa is jumping about on the other side of the bank, clapping his hands. I smooth the curls from my shoulders and smile. I told you it was safe, the Yumbo crows. Kola looks up and waves, and it is at this moment that the wooden slats beneath his feet crack loudly, giving way and sending him plunging into the river below. When he surfaces, spluttering, I laugh and twirl in the water, letting the fan of my tail split the river's surface. Shall I come and help you? I cup my hands and shout, not bothering to hide my smirk. Drops of water sparkle in midair as Kola shakes his head. I'm fine. Oh, Egbono Kunrin, I'm sorry, calls Isa, almost in tears. The wood must have rotted since we last crossed. Here, come to me and I will pull you out. I'm all right, little one, says Kola as he begins to swim to the bank. There's no need to get upset. As he cuts through the water with powerful strokes, I notice large bubbles and a ripple from upstream. The smell of rot from earlier grows stronger, and I swim closer, examining the water, the hair on my arms rising when I see it surge. The river begins to churn, and then Kola is gone before I can speak, snatched beneath the surface. I dive under, but I can't see through all the mud in the river. Swimming back up, I gasp in the still air. Isa, did you see where he went? I yell. I scan the river wildly, but it's calm now. Small eddies the only disturbance. The Yumbo shakes his head, his mouth pulled down, eyes wide. He crawls forward to the grassy lip of the bank. Kola, I call again, my hands making small circles as I hover just above the surface, half expecting him to appear, splash water at us and laugh. But the river is smooth, flowing quickly downstream. Are Kola! There's a whirl in the middle, and the river starts to froth as if beginning to boil. I pull my dagger free just as Kola bursts through the surface, clutched in the jaws of something both serpentine and strangely equine. Kola reaches out a hand to me as the creature rears up, his side clamped in its mouth. The rotten scent I caught earlier increases as the breath of the creature reaches me. 3 horns jut from the large head as yellow eyes roll from river to sky and then back to water. With a thick, sinuous body and a long neck, the creature looks just like its name, Devil Dragon. Ninki Nanka, shouts Isa from the opposite bank, his voice high-pitched with panic. Kola struggles in the enormous jaws as the serpent uncoils in the river, throwing waves of water over the banks. Horror snatches at my breath, and I am caught in the roll of the river as I fight to keep upright. Kola beats at the slick fur around the creature's face with his fists, gasping and gulping in air. Hold on, Kola, I shout, pulling my dagger free. Isa, what should I do? What's its weakness? The Ninki Nanka will not eat him alive. It will drown him first, like a crocodile, Isa shrieks, tears streaming down his pointed chin. You must stop it before it submerges. I nod and tighten my hold on the weapon. As the creature draws in a deep breath, coils tightening around the boy, I dive again. My scales flash in the murky water as the Ninki Nanka sinks, dragging Kola with him. I swim down, heading to the center of the river and the coiling mass I can just barely see. Clouds of brown burst and bloom in the water as the creature writhes in the mud, Kola a thrashing blur. When I get closer, I see that his arms are sinking by his side, bubbles leaving his mouth. Don't give up, I think desperately, slashing at the Ninki Nanka's scales, dragging the dagger down through the beast's side. I am rewarded with a large bellow as it thrashes its giant head. The water is a mixture of silt and screams, trapped in bubbles, as Kola is dropped, sinking to the riverbed. I swim to him as moonlight brightens the depths, pushing him behind me as the creature dips down to us, baring its fangs. Coiling and uncoiling, stirring the silt at the bottom of the river, it lunges forward as I strike again. With a twist of its brown furred head, the Ninkinanka knocks the weapon from my hand and rears back. Behind me, Kola is running out of air. He scrambles at my back as the Ninkinanka swims toward us, opening the black maw of its mouth. I search for the gleam of gold or the glitter of an emerald in the riverbed. I see the dagger, half hidden in the mud as the monster draws closer, gnashing teeth as large as Esau. I snatch up my weapon and spin, trying to hold it steady in the churning current as the creature hurtles toward us. We are thrown about by the motion in the water, the Ninkinanka almost upon us before I think to try something else. Stop! I command in the way I have always spoken to the sharks. Leave him. Kola's fingers clutch at me from behind, pulling me against his chest as the creature snaps its jaws shut and halts, retreating into the gloom of the river. I can still see its great head and the shimmer of its scales, but it is not attacking. I take a gamble, pushing Kola toward the surface before he drowns. He shakes his head at me, but I shove him up. I hold my dagger point out, but the Ninkinanka only glares at me, and I realize I am right. The creature has to do as I say. Wait! I swim closer, nerves coiled, blade ready. The Ninkinanka opens its mouth in a gurgling hiss. I snatch a look above me, relieved to see Kola swimming to the bank. Looking back down, I see that the creature still has not moved. Snaking through the water, I approach the Ninkinanka as it opens its mouth, several rows of teeth glinting from within. Why were you attacking us? I'm close enough now to touch one of the three horns if I wanted, though I keep an arm's length away. We didn't attack you. The Ninkinanka snorts and roars. The water pulses with the sound, but I do not move, do not show the fear that is still wound around my spine, cold and tight. We know you did not, but you are here, and so are we, and we are so hungry. We had to. Had to? There is no choice. The creature looks up at the moon wavering through the water. Already things are changing. What is changing? We cannot say. Curls float around my face. I push my hair away and hold the dagger toward a yellow eye, the emerald digging into my palm. The Ninkinanka opens its mouth, but I force my fear away, swimming forward and pushing the blade against the fur of the creature's face. Tell me. It watches me with a baleful gaze, teeth flashing. Its jaws quiver, and I know it would like nothing better than to close them around my flesh. The land. What about it? It is changing. Can you not feel it? Or do you feel only water? The creature wriggles slowly. I press the tapered blade tighter among the fur, sliding it down the skin of the Ninkinanka's cheek. Feel what? But I'm already remembering the stampede of elephants. The balance is gone. The land and all on it will slowly rot. It's happening already. The creature grins. And soon you will die with it. The Ninkinanka licks its gray-stained teeth. I will still eat you, even if your limbs are blackened with disease and death. It looks up at me, tongue retreating. All will die, but I will still need to eat. Before I can think any more, the creature opens its mouth wide and bellows, and I'm not sure how long my commands will work on it. I act fast, pressing the dagger into the creature's neck, forcing it deeper as a loud squeal spreads throughout the water. The Ninkinanka snaps its jaws, trying to bite me, but each time I twist just enough to stay out of its reach. When the creature stops roaring, I yank the golden blade free, swimming to the surface as it retreats. See me! Over here! Isa leans from the bough of a tree, bending down toward the river. Are you hurt? Kola lies next to the boy. One hand reaches for me, while the other is clamped to his side. Isa helps me from the water, and I feel Kola's gaze on me. I flop onto my back, squinting against the sun as it warms my skin, my tail splitting into legs. I want to go to Kola, but I have to wait for the bones to split and join, for skin to grow over retreating scales. For the first time, I look down at myself in frustration and annoyance, wishing I didn't have to change, wishing I were still human. Kola frowns, his chest heaving as he catches his breath. What was that thing? Didn't you know the Ninkinanka was in the river? I ask Isa, finally able to get to my feet, my voice growing shrill. You said you scouted before. The Yumbo stares at me, eyes as round as small golden suns as he sniffs away tears. I am sorry, Simi. You are right. It is my fault. Isa takes a step away from us, tiny shoulders slumped in dejection. There is only one Ninkinanka in these waters, but it traverses the river as it sees fit, eating mainly fish. So you did know, I ask, my eyes narrowing as I walk unsteadily to Kola. And you still took us this way? How could you be so foolish? Kola could have been killed. The Yumbo hangs his head, plate spilling over his eyes. This is the quickest route. I didn't think any of us would be in the river. If the bridge hadn't broken... He presses the heels of his hands against his face. The Ninki Nanka is usually in the mountain streams in the summer months, where it is cooler. Kola's wounds look mainly like severe bruising, but with a few puncture marks. I think of the Ninki Nanka's teeth and shudder. I knew we shouldn't have taken you, I all but spit. I can't stop thinking about Kola in the mouth of the Ninki Nanka. Anger pulses at the thought. We're alive, no harm done, says Kola as he rolls onto his knees, unable to get up but crouching to face the Yumbo. I know you're trying to get us to Oko as fast as possible. That's not the point, Kola, I continue, unable to stop myself, moving around him, checking his body for more wounds. It was irresponsible. See me, you'll get the rings. Now just stop being so hard. Kola shakes his head and winces, rocking back on his knees. Holding aside, he beckons to Isa, who shuffles closer. Whether the bridge broke or not, the Ninki Nanka might still have attacked. He lays a hand on the Yumbo's thin arm and tries to smile. You're an excellent guide, little one. Isa sniffs and moves toward Kola tentatively. You are not angry with me? No. And we would still have had to cross this river at some point, Kola says, still slightly out of breath. The Ninki Nanka's teeth pierced his skin in several places, and the lacerations still ooze blood. I watch as he tests the wounds with gentle presses of his hand, trying to pretend that it doesn't hurt. Besides, I was extremely lucky. Look, only a few scratches. Kola murmurs to Isa, who is still looking up at him, his honey-colored eyes full of worry. For such a lucky person, you've needed rescuing quite a few times, I snap. What if I hadn't been able to command the Ninki Nanka and then overpower it? I wipe the creature's blood from my dagger on the grass. How did I miss its approach in the water? Annoyance and guilt wash over me. Perhaps you need to start thinking about being more careful, or you'll never make it home at this rate. As soon as the words leave my mouth, I regret them. I know that Kola is only trying to make Isa feel better, that the Ninki Nanka was an accident and something I should have sensed. But I'm angry, and I know it's because I'm scared. Scared not only of failing Yamoja, but now also of losing Kola. Kola. I want to go to him and examine his wounds properly, run my fingers over the creases of his ribs to see for myself that his injuries are not serious. Instead, I watch as he holds his side, anger in his eyes as he turns away from me, back to Isa, taking the Yumbo's hand. Kola's irritation at me cuts through my outrage, but I straighten up, scuffing my foot in the dirt. I won't feel bad about trying to keep them all safe. I think about what the Ninki Nanka said, about the land losing its balance and everyone dying along with it. I think of the vision I had, how it matched what the devil dragon said, and my fingers curl around the hilt of my dagger so tightly that my nails dig into the flesh of my palms. I force myself to relax. Kola is right. It might still have attacked us. The main thing is that we're alive. Let's go, I murmur, sliding the dagger back into my hair, trying to stop my hands from shaking. The sooner we reach your village, the better. Ninki Nanka is a legendary reptilian and possibly dragon-like creature. Chapter 14. We walk for half an hour in the growing twilight before we leave the sound of the river behind. Refreshed by the water, my feet are only slightly tender now, the bones of my ankles and knees moving with ease. The blackest part of the night has fully claimed the forest, creating shadows as dark as ink. Kola holds his hands to his side, and although the bite marks have stopped bleeding, they are an angry red, the skin puffy. Some of the wounds on his back have opened up too, edges yellowing in a way that makes me anxious about infection. And worried about Kola. Isa, I call. How much farther? Can we stop for a moment? The Yumbo runs back. Of course. Do you need water? Some food? Kola slumps beside a tree and I sigh, annoyed at myself for not thinking about this earlier. He clasps his left side, the same one that troubled him from the wreck. We need some of the Abada powder your grandfather gave us, I say to Isa. Kola's hurt. Isa's eyes fill with concern. I'll mix some together right away. As the Yumbo hurries off to rummage in the sack, I extract the water skin and hold it out to Kola. Drink. He takes it from me without meeting my gaze, removing the hand from his side and sitting fully on the ground. One large swig and he slumps back in relief. Eat. I unwrap a parcel of fish and pass him half. Kola lets out a short, exhausted laugh at my tone, and I smile a little. The shade from the tree darkens his face, but I can still see the lines of exhaustion that run between his eyes, highlighted by the moon. Isa returns with a wooden cup full of a thick, gray, citrus-smelling paste. This will need to go on the wounds. Save a little at the end, mix it with more water, and then he will need to drink it. Thank you, little one. I bend down to make eye contact. He really is still a child, and I know he cares about Kola. Everything he has done has been to help us. Guilt wells as I think of the way I behaved after the Ninki Nanka. You're appreciated, greatly. The Yumbo smiles shyly, a large dimple appearing in his right cheek. I'm going to put some of this on your wounds, I say to Kola. I scoop out the mixture, and it tingles on my fingertips, glittering in the moonlight. He hisses as the medicine touches his skin. Tell me about your home, I say, hoping to distract him as I begin to pat the paste onto the puncture marks. About your brother and sister. It is like most large villages, but mine is different. Kola turns to face me, the faint outline of a smile growing. It's special. How? Holding his shoulder carefully, I slide my fingers across the silk of his skin, examining the bite marks and the wounds that have reopened. Kola winces again, and irritation rises in me as I think about him trying to walk on like this. He must have been in agony. My great-grandfather founded our village on the edge of the Oyo Kingdom, close to the River Ogun. We had the benefit of the sea as well as the river, and the land was so fertile that he named it after the Orisa of farming. My father is the head of the village, the son of a village leader. I can understand a lot of his behavior now, his sureness. I ease Kola sideways, and he twists his body for me, allowing me access to the rest of his wounds. The Alafin of Oyo at the time of my grandfather was Onigbogi. Impressed by our wealth, he gave us a bronze plaque that told the story of Oko's prosperity. My father still has it hanging from our compound wall. It's magnificent. He smiles. In the mid-afternoon sun, the carved figures and crops shine in a blaze of golden fire. Tell me more, I murmur. He looks over his shoulder at me. I swallow and force my gaze away from his mouth, shifting my body away from his. My mother used to sing her prayer to Olodumare when she prepared our food. She sang any time she had the chance. Her voice was low and sweet like fried coconut. He grins and turns back to face the forest. She would always make that for me if I was feeling sad. I imagine a woman with welcoming smile and a voice that fills the village and the hearts of anyone listening. My brother and sister would wedge their sleeping mats next to mine, but I liked to know that they were next to me. It always helped me to sleep better. He looks at me again. This time shyness hoods his eyes. I was allowed to choose their names. Taiwo came first, but Kahindi is wiser. It makes sense that she sent him out first in the world to scout ahead. She always waits before reacting. Whereas Taiwo, Kola raises an eyebrow. He's always charging into things, like the time they both decided they couldn't wait for me to take them out on my boat. Kahindi convinced him to sneak and hide, reasoning that once I had set off, I couldn't say no to them. Taiwo couldn't help himself, though. He popped up from their hiding place under their seats before I'd even pushed the boat from the shallows. Kahindi was furious with him for giving them away. I imagine a smaller version of Kola hopping from foot to foot in excitement. What did you do? I ended up sailing just out to the bluff, letting them have a little taste. Really, they were too young, but I wouldn't have let anything happen to them. Kola pauses, his voice dropping lower. I would never let anything happen to them. I move in front of him to cover the scratches on his chest and shoulders. Sweat glistens on his face as his smile wanes. My heart sinks at the expression that slips across his features. Longing, fear. The wounds are covered, and I push backward, reaching for the water skin. The paste in the bottom of the wooden cup mixes well with the water, and I offer it to Kola, holding my breath when the tips of our fingers touch. He grasps the cup in his hand, watching as I put more distance between us. Kola's expression is a careful blank, as if he doesn't care, but I catch the tightening of his mouth before he raises the cup to his lips. He downs the concoction in one long swallow, eyes still on mine. Setting the empty cup next to him, he clears his throat, leaning against the tree. What about you? What about your home? The question catches me off guard. What can I tell him? Of a mother with eyes the same shade as his? Of a father who taught me to wield a dagger? Of the glimpses of a city I can't fully remember, the comforting scent of fried plantain and hot rice? Of a past that the sea has swallowed? I can't remember most of it, I answer, my voice low, staring down at the tops of my feet. Not since I've become Mamiwata, only parts. And if I were in the water, this wouldn't matter to me. I wouldn't feel this straining, this wanting to be someone else, something else. I can feel Kola watching me. You will. It's still all there, deep inside you. His simple words make my eyes burn with tears that I try to blink away. While the remembering can bring me comfort, it's always a reminder of a life I lost. Even the need to change, the draw of water, is another sign that I am different from Kola. We should rest now, he says quietly. You should rest, you mean? I whisper. Kola smiles, brown eyes crinkling, and shifts again closer to me. He still smells of the sea mixed with the delicate fiery spice of the fish we've eaten. For moments we watch each other. Slowly, Kola's eyes begin to close, and his head droops so that it rests on my shoulder. I freeze, feeling the softness of his exhalations, regular and deep. His lips brush the slope of my upper arm, and my skin tingles at the contact. I can't remember anyone being this close to me before. Maybe my reaction is just that, a craving of human contact. And then I look down at Kola, the lines of his body against mine. I think of the love in his voice when he told me about his family, the earnestness of his words, and what I'm allowing right now. I'm doing exactly what Yamoja told me not to, getting close to Kola in ways I didn't think possible. Sighing, I lift my eyes to the sky, searching for the Irole. It is known as the courting star. Lovers would use its nightly emergence to arrange secret trysts, something I will never be able to do with Kola. I want to place a hand on the boy's head, let myself stroke his black curls. Instead, I form a fist to stop myself. I mustn't allow myself to forget that I am of the sea, and he is not. An hour passes, and the forest grows full of the low calls of owls and the occasional grunts of baboons. I watch Kola rest, drinking in the pinkish-brown fullness of his bottom lip and the crescents of his thick eyelashes. He sleeps peacefully, mouth slightly open now, his hand warm against mine. See me, whispers Issa, who has been dozing fitfully. We need to go if we are to get there before morning. Of course, I answer, shifting, feeling the knots in my muscles. I don't want to move to disturb Kola, but the Yumbo is right. Issa climbs over tree roots and crouches in front of the boy, his eyes glowing in splashes of moonlight. Egbono Kunrin, how are you feeling? Kola sits up slowly, twisting to look at his side while I scan his back. All that is left of the bite marks and other wounds are faint lines in his skin. He runs a hand over them, fingers tracing the puckered marks. How do you feel, I ask. Kola nods and straightens his back, grinning at us both. Well enough for us to keep going. Issa claps his delicate hands and does his best to tug Kola to his feet. He leans on me and I shift my weight, helping him up with a push from behind. Once he's standing, I brush twigs from my wrapper, looking anywhere but at him. Thank you for the medicine, I hear the smile in his voice, and for being a very warm pillow. I can't hide the twitch of my lips as I gather our bag of supplies, nodding once at him as Issa capers before us. It's as if I can still feel the heat of him against me. I push the thought out of my head and take a deep breath, gripping the bag tighter, stretching my legs. Come, Oko is this way, declares the Yumbo as he takes Kola's hand, pulling him east through the trees. We walk through the rest of the night, our path lit by the low, bright moon. The air is still warm, but more comfortable now, the humidity swallowed by the dark. Giant moths swoop down, and Issa shoos them away, his face creased in annoyance. Screeches and calls of nighttime creatures have Kola's hand permanently on the hilt of his dagger, but nothing attacks us. As the sky begins to lighten, Issa slows his steps. Kola turns slowly, his brows furrowed. Oko is just beyond the next set of trees after the hill. He twists and points in the other direction. The river runs back that way, opening out to the sea. This is good, yes? Kola doesn't reply, pausing in the spreading dawn. What if I'm too late? What if the ceremony didn't happen because of me? I allow myself to touch his arm, waiting until his eyes are on mine. You'll be home soon. Let's focus on that. Kola nods, although his frown remains. Reluctantly, I release his arm and sweep my gaze around the trees and ground, the blush of sun lightening it all. Soon it will give way to fields and people and compounds. Oko. Where I will leave Kola and journey on to the Babalawo. I've kept my promise to take Kola back to his village, and now it's time to keep the one I made to Yamoja. A burst of melancholy seeps in at the thought of leaving him, and I force myself to think of the chance I have to make things right with the Orisa and all Mamiwata. It's only as we draw closer to the outskirts of the forest that I notice the thinning trees and the plants that surround them. A few are still green, vibrant even in the cloak of early dawn, but the rest are brown with a few twisted branches. We stop and my body goes rigid as I survey the land, blackened with disease and death. I think of the Nikinanka and wipe at my mouth, a feeling of disquiet burrowing deeper inside me as I take in the dying earth. And dying it is. Even the flowers on the twisted limbs are desiccated husks, their brittle petals succumbing to the wind. Grass still reaches up to our knees, but it is dry, the edges like blades, quick to slice our skin. Kola turns in a half circle, lips thinned in anxiousness. It wasn't like this a few weeks ago. Perhaps it's something in this part of the forest, I say. Come, let's keep moving, we're practically there. The sun breaks free from the distant tree line as we crest the hill, spilling its pale cherry glow onto the village below. Cows are huddled together under a few dead and wizened trees, and the corn is a dark brown. A sense of familiarity slows my steps, my brain whirring as I take in the hills that roll into fields. Blackened branches grasp at the skies, dying trees hanging over heaps of crops, ruined and rotting. My vision. The land ahead of us is identical to what I saw. Bile rises and I swallow it down. We're still too far away to see properly, but already it looks as if the vegetation of the village is suffering the same fate as that of the forest. Beyond the corn, tan walls and thatched roofs make up many compounds that circle around one another, and Kola walks faster toward them. It's still standing, he says, joy flooding his tone. Perhaps we should be cautious, I say. A few figures stand spaced evenly outside the village walls, and something about them makes me feel uneasy. They hold themselves stiffly. I see the occasional glint of sunlight on their bright metal of blades. These are not just any villagers, they are on guard. Isa, let me carry you. Kola picks up the Yumbo, who climbs into the sack. He smiles down at the boy as Isa nods, folding his knees and arms. Yumbos are tales of the storyteller to the people in Oko. I do not mind, see? Isa snuggles down, looking about the size of a large yam. Kola holds the sack loosely so that plenty of air can get in and heads off toward the outer fields of Oko. Dread snakes through my blood with every quickened beat of my heart. Our path takes us through the crops of corn, plantain, and cassava. Although they are still alive, the stems and leaves are wilted, with patches of brown and black among the plants. We draw closer, our feet kicking up small puffs of red earth from the path as I scan the village walls. No greetings are called out, no children run to welcome us, just darting figures that are blurs in the early light. My throat tightens and I reach out, snagging Kola by his hand. He slows, scanning the perimeter just as an arrow lands in the earth in front of us. Kola staggers, almost falling until I catch him, pushing him back upright with a strength that surprises me in my present form. What is this? They're shooting at me? Kola is incredulous, but I scramble farther back, trying to drag him with me. He cradles the sack and follows, but he eyes the village walls angrily, his other hand on the sword. They haven't seen you in a long time, I say, checking on Isa. The Yumbo has curled himself into a ball, eyes tightly shut. I reach inside and give his hand a quick squeeze. Wouldn't you be cautious too? Kola takes a deep breath, his chest heaving as he calms himself. He eases backward slowly and makes a show of placing his weapon on the floor before straightening up fully, watching the guards who gather in front of the tall wooden gates. I go with him, careful not to make any sudden movements. Two people peel away from the rest, loping down the main path, gates long and easy. The guard on the left is almost twice the size of the one on the right, and carries a sword almost half the length of my body. In the other's grip, I can make out the flash of two blades, axes. My fingers twitch, wanting to go to the emerald hilt tight against my braids. Kola focuses on the guards and suddenly breaks into a sprint, arms held open. What are you doing? I say, lurching forward in panic. I pull up my hair, fumbling with the dagger, but by the time I manage to yank it free, they are upon him. Ade Kola! Cries the huge guard, grasping Kola with both arms. Bam! So this is how you welcome me home, by shooting at me? With his wrapper of onyx black and burnished straps of leather to hold his weapons crisscrossed over his chest, the smile that splits the face of the imposing giant guard looks out of place. Holding Kola away from him, Bam lifts his head and releases a deep laugh into the sky. We are blessed! We are blessed! Yinka, did I not tell you that he would come back to us? The guard's bald head gleams in the sun, matched by the head of the girl standing next to him. Tall, with long limbs that move with the grace of a leopard, she regards me with wide-set eyes. The lack of hair only accentuates high cheekbones and the arc of her neck. Yinka's wrapper is the same black as Bam's, but cinched tight around her chest and waist. The same polished leather straps wrap around her shoulders, tight against skin that shines like the midnight sky. She keeps her eyes on me and a firm grip on the golden axes in each hand as she squeezes Kola to her. You did, Bem, she answers, her voice light and even. There's a cool assessment in the gaze she turns on me that makes me want to shrink back. I lift my chin instead. Kola puts his arms around them both. Their heads come together, Bem bending low, and for a moment there is silence as they grip one another's shoulders. When they pull away, Kola looks from one to the other. Is Oko well? The Tapa didn't attack again? They didn't, but after you were taken, your father ordered us to launch an assault upon them anyway. Bem pauses, brows low over his sighs. Yinka opens her mouth to speak, but Bem cuts her off, wrapping his arm around Kola's shoulder and steering him toward the village gates. Come, he says gently. It's a long story best told by your father. Kola nods and then turns to me, motioning me forward. I walk over to him and Yinka's face shimmers with something else I don't quite understand. Bem, Yinka, this is Simidele. Without her, I wouldn't be here now. As they exclaim in blessings to Olodumare and Ogun, I don't take my eyes off Kola. There is still a glaze of anxiety over my thoughts. While this is what I wanted, the thought of going any farther without him makes me feel somehow off balance. Besides, seeing him with Yinka and Bem, how close they are, makes it even more obvious how much I don't belong. I think of the press of Kola next to me when he was resting, and then of Yamoja's words, of her warning not to get too close to humans. I'm beginning to understand what she was trying to tell me, how it hurts to feel, knowing that you will have to leave them. I stop and raise my voice, cutting through their chatter. Now that you're here, I'll be on my way. If you'll just point me in the Babalawo's direction, I'll find him. Kola lets Bem's arm fall from his shoulder and crosses the short distance between us. His eyes are on mine, flickering over my face and down to my feet. I said I'd take you, and I will. Kola moves closer, and I fight the urge to back up. His hand encircles the top of my arm gently, and I feel the burn of heat across my chest again. I'll keep my promise if it's all the same to you. I turn away and stare in the direction of the sea, and then back at the walls of Oko, anywhere but at Kola's face. See me, he says my name softly, and I can't help but snatch another look at him. You've done so much for me that I can't even begin to know how to pay you back. Taking you to the Babalawo is at least a start. His fingers slide down my arm as he releases me, and I fight not to shiver at his touch. Please? I look at his mouth as he says my name and nod, unable to trust my voice. Kola waits until I move to his side before he starts off down the path to the walls of his village. As we draw closer, the dark wooden gates of Oko seem to ripple with images, and when we reach them, my legs weaken with a rush of foreboding. The door on the left side depicts the sea with fish, sharks, and whales, each scale and tooth and eye scored delicately into the surface. The right side shows the produce of Oku's lands, with unending fields of corn, plantain, and cassava, leaves and stems and flowers looking as real as the vegetation behind us. The gates are the ones in my vision. Was I wrong earlier to hope that the hills and the failing crops I saw were different from those in my mind? The carved sides of the gate stretch from one smooth tan wall to another, but Bem is large enough to reach both, muscles bulging. Will he throw them wide upon the corpses of Oko's villagers? See me, are you all right? Kola asks me, his hand hovering near my elbow. I manage to nod, wiping at the beads of cold sweat that drip down my forehead. Don't be nervous. We'll stop and then be on our way to the Babalawo. I can't speak. I hold my breath as the gate swings smoothly open onto the main thoroughfare, lit by the early morning sunlight. The villagers of Oko are stirring, and the streets are full of women with calabashes of water and freshly harvested crops. Gathering together, they make their way to the market that is being set up at the square in the center. I release the breath I've been holding, letting the hand clasped to my chest fall back to my side. Alive. The people are alive. A few brown crops doesn't necessarily mean anything. I try to relax as we make our way down the wide main path. The polished walls of compounds spiral away, each an exact replica of the others. Decorated with horizontal ridge designs as well as images of the warriors of Oko and tales of their fishing prowess, the walls tell stories of success and power. As we walk down the main road heading to Kola's family compound, women and men bow, lowering their goods and calabashes, touching the ground near his feet. Children call out their pleasure, bending into respectful poses when reminded. We join the flow of people who head toward the market space, goods in hand and woven baskets on heads. Carts are full of corn, yams, freshly slaughtered carcasses of goats, and cages of chickens. Although the market should soon be open, I see that a few sellers are grouped together at the corner of the stalls, not bothering to set up yet. As we walk past, they don't look up, preoccupied with their frowns, and with the goods they poke around on a trestle table. Craning my neck around Yinka, I see that the corn they have is brown, with a gentle rot that can be smelled from where I am. A fisherman approaches them and holds up a tiny catch, dull scales that fail to sparkle in the morning light. My mood dips again, apprehension threading through it. Yinka looks in the direction I am staring in and narrows her eyes, faltering for a moment before carrying on behind Kola. As we walk around the market, we pass an old man sitting in the entranceway of a house, his faded green wrapper tucked around skin folded with age and sprinkled with dark spots from the sun. Chickens cluck from the hutch next to him, their brown feathers drifting in the growing heat of the morning. The elder sucks on an ivory pipe that resembles a tiny leopard, releasing a thin trail of smoke before glancing up at Kola and nearly dropping it. "Praise Ogun!" he exclaims, shock and pleasure twisting his wrinkled face into a smile. "Look who has been returned to us!" Kola nods and grins in his direction, lifting a fist to his heart. "Yes, uncle. It is good to see you back." The old man collects his composure, and a shadow slides across his expression. "Go straight to your parents. Go now," he calls again as Kola hurries his steps and I rush to keep up. People continue to dip and bow to Kola as he rushes to his family compound, flanked by Bam and Yinka. I quicken my steps as I follow them. I need a quick break. Be right back. Jasper Doodle, what you doing, little man? Jasper, come here. I'm back. Jasper Doodle. Oh, he's laying on his paper bag. Jasper
loves it.
Is absolutely in love with cardboard boxes and big paper bags. Jasper, you're so darn cute. I gotta move this laundry basket out of the way so I can see his preciousness. You're so cute, Jasper. I wish I could show you. Come here. Come hang out with us. He's like, no, this paper bag is just far too, I don't know what. Doesn't look that comfy. December said, bye, Sir Stubbytail. Sir Stubbytail. His little nubbin is so cute. All right. Where were we? The red clay walls of Cola's home gleam from the pathway as he passes me the sack containing Issa. I set the bag on the floor against one of the outer arches. You can come out soon, little one, I whisper. Cola passes by the bronze panels depicting Ogun, their surfaces shining. On them, the Orisa is shown with glowing swords and scales to represent the justice he oversees. An altar is arranged beneath the panels, with offerings set on it of palm wine, cola nuts, one large rooster, and 2 yams. We follow closely behind Cola, pausing as he steps into the central courtyard. He spins slowly to face each of the 4 walls of his family quarters, arms hanging down at his sides as if he can't believe he's actually home. Just as he turns back to smile at us, a loud wail rends the air. A woman, her plumpness straining at the complicated folds and knots of her white wrapper, rushes into the courtyard, a matching pristine head wrap framing her oval face. She raises her hands to cup her nose and mouth, but the gesture does nothing to temper the sound of her cry or the tears that run down her cheeks. Cola rushes to her side as the woman staggers, falling to her knees, sobbing. He skids when he reaches her, sinking to the ground as her arms stretch partway around his back. Iya, I hear him gasp as the woman pulls him down against her, sobbing into his neck. Adekola, you are alive, she cries, her fingers fluttering against his tear-stained cheeks as he kisses her forehead. Praise Ogun, I've prayed for this for weeks, and here you are. She holds him away from her so she can look at him, her eyes still glazed with tears as she smiles through them. Here you are. Iya, why are you wearing white? Cola pulls away from her grip and looks around the courtyard. His voice grows thinner with concern. What's happened? Who has passed? Cola's mother doesn't answer. She gets to her feet, pulling her son with her and smoothing her wrapper, trying to brush off some loose dirt that clings to the fabric. Where's Baba and Taiwo and Kahindi? I see Bem and Yinka look at each other as they stand next to me, before both look down at the tightly packed earth. Fear draws an icy veil over me that is at odds with the growing heat of the morning, and I rub my palms on my wrapper. I am here, answers Cola's father, stepping into the courtyard from his quarters opposite, and glad to see you home, Omomi. Nearly as tall as his son and with the same shade of dark reddish-brown skin, he doesn't smile. His white wrapper is stark, immaculate, and tied crisply, a matching fila atop his head. Thick gold rings shine on every one of his fingers. Cola's father gathers his son to him, pressing his forehead against his, blinking rapidly. We thought we had lost you. Cola clasps his father by the shoulders, his fingers digging deep as he holds back more tears. He nods instead, and I see his hands shake as he releases the older man. Iya, where are Taiwo and Kahindi? Cola's mother turns her face away, her sobs growing as she clutches at herself. Baba, where are they? There is silence in the courtyard as the rising sun sears the compound, flashing upon glazed eyes and teeth that are bared in both grief and fear. Cola balls his hands into fists, his mouth pressed into sudden flat lines. Will somebody tell me where my brother and sister are? Gone, says Cola's father, his voice low and hoarse. Taken last night. Oh, Jasper moved from his paper bag to right in front of the heat. Soaking up the heat. Chapter 15. I remember Salif's face, the vacant look in his amber eyes, and the ragged cry that he was unable to stop. The Yumbos felt it when the twins were taken. I'm sure of it now. Kola looks from his mother to his father, shaking his head, a minute expression of his confusion. No, no, they can't be. His father reaches for him, clasping Kola to him as his boy's legs give way. Together they crouch on the ground as Kola's mother goes to them, her hands on their backs and her tears flowing as fast as theirs. They remain entwined for some moments before Kola rises from the huddle, helping his parents up, watching as his father leads his mother inside to rest. He promises to join them soon, and once they are out of view, he strides toward Bem and Yinka, his head held high. His cheeks are lined with dried tears, and his eyes burn with a fury matched only in the fists he swings by his sides. Why didn't you tell me? Bem lowers his head, but Yinka reaches out a hand to Kola, her fingers grazing his shoulder before he jerks away. A shadow passes across her face at his reaction. It wasn't our place, says Bem quietly. There has been no sign of them since. We've been out looking the entire night, the whole guard. Kola glares at them both, his eyes shining with more unshed tears. They're not dead. I know it. He takes a deep breath, exhaling it slowly, letting his fists unfurl. Who took them? Bem looks at Yinka, his eyes dark, thick wrinkles of a frown marring his forehead. A Sioux, she answers quietly, and then clears her throat. Several guards were killed, the ones who weren't described, the Orisa. The silence is tight, a brittle absence of sound until Bem sighs, his eyes filling as he blinks slowly. He opens his mouth to speak, but is cut off. And where were you? Hisses Kola. You know that the twins are Ibeji embodied, that they are important. Where were the rest of my family's guards? You don't need to make us feel even guiltier, says Yinka, stepping up to Kola. Her head only reaches his shoulders, but it feels as if she towers over him with just the curl of her lip. In fact, we weren't here, that's right. But why? Because we were out looking for you. She bares her teeth, anger contorting her face. The son who decided to ignore his father and take matters into his own hands. Leaving without permission, trying to make a deal with the Tapa. I shrink back against the passageway wall at the anger in their voices, not to mention Yinka's fingers on the bone handles of her golden axes. Every day, Bem and I search, visiting different villages, asking questions. Yinka is not giving up, incandescent with anger. Trying to find you. I was attempting to make sure the Tapa didn't attack, snarls Kola, but even I could see the conflicted guilt in his face. I was trying to make sure Taiwo and Kahindi were safe. His voice cracks on the last word. Bem looms above them both. He lifts a large muscled arm and edges them apart. Now is not the time to be divided. Your feelings are because of your concern for each other, both of you. He stands between them now, gaze fixed on neither, voice melodious and calm. Let's think of a solution, not the problem. None of us prosper when we're divided. Kola breathes hard before whirling away, opening his hands, pressing his palms against the wall, his shoulders tensed. Yinka paces away toward the well at the back of the courtyard. What about the confirmation ceremony? I ask quietly. Did the Babalawo perform it? Yes, and one for protection, says Bem as Kola makes his way back to us. Just a few days ago. I think that's part of the reason their father is furious. He's talking about punishing the Babalawo because it clearly didn't work. It can't have if they were taken. Kola has reached us now, his shoulders taut. I'm going to take Simi to him and see for myself what he has to say. We'll go with you, says Bem as Yinka returns. She's let go of her axes but still frowns. It's only a few hours, says Kola. We're part of the guard. It's our duty to protect you, she adds, nostrils flaring. We're coming with you. Kola and Yinka face each other and I brace myself, but the girl cocks her head and lifts a hand to pinch her nose closed. But first you need to bathe and change your wrapper. You stink of the sea and sweat. I don't move, holding my breath and flicking my gaze between them as Bem suddenly splutters with a laugh that booms around the courtyard. This is true, Kola. Clean up, and then we'll head to the Babalawo. He claps a hand on Kola's shoulder and squeezes. Together. Right, Carrie, now we know. Kola stares at Yinka as she tries a small smile for him. He nods, eyes clearer. All right, all right. He walks up to me with concern on his face. Do you need anything? Food? We will take care of her, says Bem, releasing him and standing beside me. Is that all right with you? Asks Kola quietly, and I nod. I've already adjusted to being around so many other humans. I won't be long. Kola walks into the quarters directly on our right, head swiveling as he continues to drink in the sight of his home. I'm going to check the guards on rotation today, says Yinka, as she starts across the courtyard without another look at me, disappearing into the corridor at the end. I crouch beside the sack and draw down its sides, checking on the Yumbo. Issa sleeps at the bottom, curled around a large yam, his mouth open slightly. I close the sack and stand to face Bem as he returns from the well with a shining copper pail. He reaches down, unhooking a matching cup from its side, dipping it into the water and handing it to me. I accept with a nod of thanks. We haven't been properly introduced, says Bem, holding a hand twice the size as mine to the slab of his chest. Bem. Simideli, I say, mirroring him. Simi. Have you come far? Where are your people, Simideli? The question is asked in a soft voice, but it still surprises me. I take a moment, fiddling with the emerald in my hair. I think about the market, the Alafin's palace, my parents. Oyo Ile. The capital? Bem looks up at me, surprise in his open expression. That's a long way. I shrug. He looks at me quizzically, eyebrows raised, as if trying to work me out. What about you? I ask, trying to deflect the attention. My tone feels awkward. I'm not used to this anymore. Have you always lived in Oko? Oko is the only home I know, but my parents weren't born here. He pauses, adjusting the sword buckled onto his back. My mother and father fled a war far away in the north. I was a baby. It's why they chose the name they gave me. It means peace. He picks up the other cup and fills it, taking a delicate sip. We settled in Oko because they welcomed my father's skills. He was a fisherman, an expert in rivers, but he quickly adapted to the sea. He taught me a lot. Ropes, knots. He used to take me out when the sky was still dark. My father taught me how to use the stars to navigate. Bem pauses, his eyes glazed as he remembers. We'd eat the breakfast my mother would pack, usually plantain and some boiled eggs if we were lucky. He sounds very clever. Bem grins widely, and his openness puts me at ease. He would have loved to hear you say that. What about Kola? Have you known each other for a long time? Since we were very young. He never minded that I wasn't born in the village, and once he accepted me, so did everyone else. We always wanted... Never mind. He shakes his head, a shy smile on his lips. No, go on. Bem leans toward me eagerly, and he looks younger, his height and size falling away for a moment. We both talked about sailing as far as we could go, visiting as many new lands as possible. A new world, I say, remembering how I felt when I was beneath the sea and all that it contained. A whole other universe. Bem nods his head vigorously. Exactly, but to explore, not take. What about Kola? His voice is quieter now. How did you meet? I stop, wondering how much to say. I found him after he had been thrown overboard from a ship belonging to the Oyimbo. The ugliness of Kola's other fate sits between us a moment as Bem thinks on what I've said. Then I owe you a debt, Simidele. He's not smiling this time, and his bow catches me unawares. Thank you for saving him. I open my mouth to answer, but as Yinka reappears, striding toward us, I close it. She's a touch taller than me, with a leanness that explains why she has been accepted into the Oko Guard. Even though she is slimmer, muscles bunch under her skin as she shifts her stance, moving, always moving. I detect resentment as she deliberately avoids my gaze. Her large eyes are fixed on Bem, but I have a feeling that if I were to move even an inch now, she would sense it. Yinka glances at me and then swiftly away, her gaze alighting on the sack next to me. What's in there, she asks. Supplies, I answer. I should keep my answers to a minimum from now on. It's safer. I am rescued from more questions as Kola emerges from his father's quarters and heads straight for me. His skin shines in the sunlight, and with a fresh wrapper slung around his waist, hanging in clean folds, he looks exactly like the leader of a village's son. See me, he says, coming close to me, smelling of black soap, shea butter, and the coconut oil that has made his clean curls tighter. If Asu took the twins, do you think the Babalawo might be able to tell me where he is? I look up at his face, my eyes trailing down to the pinkish-brown tone of his bottom lip. I turn away, my heart thumping in a way that usually happens only when something is wrong. Perhaps. I managed to force out the word, unable to look at him directly. If he's the one Yamoja described, his knowledge will be infinite. Good. Kola spins away from me, allowing my pulse to even out. Bem, Yinka, I'll say goodbye to my parents and then we'll leave. Neither questions him. It's easy to see their loyalty and trust in him, and I wonder if he will ever feel that way about me. Kola straps his sword back on, tightening the leather around his waist just as his mother arrives. Her face is ominous as the thunder Sango conjured. His father follows close behind, trailing half a dozen guards who bristle with swords, axes, and spears. Where do you think you were going? Kola's mother rushes up to him and grabs his hand. "You've only just returned." "I know, Iya, but we're going to the Babalawo. Simidele has to see him, and I want to find out if he knows where Esu is." "Simidele? Who is this Simidele?" Kola's mother peers around him to examine me, and I dip my eyes in deference, wondering if I should touch the floor before her feet. Before I can do so, she jerks back to her son, anger and fear contorting the lines of her face. "No, Ada Kola. I want you here, safe with me, behind Oko's walls, and with the might of the guards to defend us." "But Taiwo and Kahindi? We have sent people out to search for them, and will continue to do so." Kola's father cuts him off, glowering, fierceness crackling in his gaze. "I will not have you rushing foolishly off again." Kola squares his shoulders and takes a moment before speaking, measuring out each word. "I was wrong to go to the Tapa without you, Baba, no matter what my intentions were." He holds a hand to his heart, keeping his tone even. "And for that, I apologize. But ever since then, my family and my home have been constantly on my mind. I stopped at nothing trying to get back here. Taiwo and Kahindi are not dead, and I will find them." He pauses a moment as his voice cracks, and I take a step toward him without realizing it. "I will find them and bring them back to Oko, to our lands, back to you, back to us, where they belong. But in order to do this, I need to speak to the Babalawo and see if he knows where Esu is." "It is not safe," Kola's mother bursts out, her face creasing with grief. "We will look after him," says Yinka, her tone firm as she glances from Kola to his mother. Bem steps forward and bows. "You know that I would give my life for him." Silence stretches as Kola's father glowers at us all, and then he nods, shoulders slumping. "You will go to the high priest," he says, his voice more resolute than the expression on his face. "And if he tells you where Esu is, I give you my permission and blessing to go in search of him. But," Kola's father holds a hand up, "you will come back for sufficient supplies, and you will take Ifedayo with you." The tallest guard behind him shifts so that he faces us fully, skinny plates and a long face at odds with the other older-looking sentries. "A new guard, Baba?" "One who has come from Oyo Ile to assist with the Tapa threat." Kola hesitates a moment before nodding and taking his mother's hand, pressing it against his cheek. "I'll be back before sunset, Iya." She stares up at his face and nods instead of speaking. She seems to have swallowed her worry as she realizes she can't change Kola's mind. "First you will eat." She holds up a dimpled hand, fingers sparkling with polished chunks of diamonds set in thick gold bands. "Iya, no, you will eat before anything else." Kola's mother places her other hand on his cheek, cradling his face, bringing his gaze down to hers. "You will allow me that at least." Kola goes with his mother as she starts across the courtyard, his arm tight around her shoulders. They spend several moments speaking before she disappears into the corridor, and Kola walks back, his eyes on me. I open my mouth to speak and am interrupted by Yinka's shout. She's next to our bag, drawing her axes as the sides ripple. "There's something in there!" I run to jump between her blades and the sack. The woven side is pulled down and Isa peeps over the side. Yinka draws back with a gasp. I look over helplessly at Kola, who scoops the tiny boy up. "A Yumbo!" exclaims Yinka as she leans down, trying to get a closer look. Isa grins at her from the safety of Kola's arms. Bem approaches too, his face open in growing awe. "I didn't think the tales of the Bakna Rakna were real." "I never had a doubt," says Kola defensively as he lets Isa climb down. The Yumbo bows to Yinka and Kola. "They saved me when our boat was wrecked. Just be careful with him, he's small." Isa looks up at Kola and frowns. "I am tiny, but I am strong. You know this, Egbon Okunrin." "Come sit with me so that the servants do not see you," says Yinka, as Isa skips over to her side, holding the hand she offers him. "Do you like corn? The storyteller said all Yumbos like corn." "Mm-hmm." Isa nods happily as he follows Yinka. "Very much so." Kola trails them as Bem holds his arm. "Are you sure you're not going to spring something else on us?" He laughs, and I see Kola force himself to smile, but he looks at me very briefly. My knees tremble slightly, and I can't help but look down at my feet, still brown and ordinary looking. "Let's get ready to eat, shall we? The sooner we finish the food my mother will force on us, the quicker we can leave." Isa slots himself between Yinka and Bem when we sit on the mats laid out for us, and he's so small that the folds of their wrappers all but hide him. When Kola's mother returns, she is followed by servants who bring out a low mahogany table. Another group of servants make their way over with several dishes on gleaming platters. The scent of the roasted goat makes my mouth water. "My son has told me just a little bit about you, but it is enough to know that I owe you my thanks." She smiles at me, her round cheeks shining. "Please eat." It's corn. She passes me a bowl of egusi and a separate place of iyan as I sit down opposite Kola. My mouth waters at the scent of the soup and pounded yam, and the courtyard blurs around me. Like this, Simedele, says my mother, peeling the brown outer layer of the vegetable. She slices the white part and washes it in a calabash of clean water. Now add it to the pot. It needs to boil for around 10 minutes. I'm just tall enough to be able to see into the cooking pot. Carefully, I add the sliced yam to the boiling water and then help to clear the peelings away. I check on the chicken that is stewing separately and pick up another red pepper, ready to add it. Not too much, Simi. All we will taste is heat. I roll my eyes and slip half in when her back is turned. When your father is choking and gasping for water, I will tell him who to blame. I push my tongue against my teeth and fish the pepper out with a spoon. The compound is rich with the smell of cooking, and my stomach rumbles when I think of the meal we will be sharing. It is the Alafin's birthday, and a great celebration is being held in the main square. Test it, my mother says, peering into the pot and moving aside to make room for me. Make sure it is soft enough. I lean into the steam, piercing a piece of yam with a small knife. It's ready, Iya. All right, now be sure that the water is not completely dried because you will need it while pounding the yam. We can always add some, but it is better to use the water it cooked in. She places a mortar and pestle beside the pot. Now use the pestle to pound. Like this, I ask, grinding the pestle against the stone mortar. Yes, like that, answers my mother, smiling. She wipes a shred of yam from her wrapper and places her hands on her hips as she washes me. You are doing a wonderful job, Simedele. Well done, little one. What is this? Asks my father as he enters, drawn by the smell of food. He breathes in deeply, hands on his stomach. Who is cooking all this delicious food? The Alafin will smell this and demand it all. Me, Baba, I crow. It was me. He looks down, feigning shock. Now, how can this be? You are not big enough, surely. I am, I say, laughing as he picks me up and kisses my cheek once, twice, 3 times. Not only are you growing as clever and beautiful as your mother, but now you are cooking like her? I glance over at my mother, at her round, smiling face and even teeth. She adjusts her wrapper. Even her simple movements are graceful. To be like her, my heart swells. I grin and kiss my father back. I blink, the memory of my mother teaching me how to make iyan strong in my mind. Her strong hands, the way she taught me just the right amount of spice for pepper soup. The compliments her food would receive before she told her stories. How everyone would watch the beauty of her shining face, as mesmerizing as the fire that they gathered round. In front of me, the egusi steams, a reminder that I will never teach my own daughter how to make food. I will never have a family like Kola, Yinka, and Bem. I'll never feel love or be loved. A wave of melancholy tugs at me, but I refuse to be sucked under. I knew this, I tell myself. Being here with Kola, remembering what my life was like before, changes nothing. I am not the same, but I won't let it stop me from doing what I need to. Eat, repeats Kola's mother, holding the bowl out to me. Thanking her, I force myself to pinch some of the iyan and mold it in my hands before dipping it into the egusi, trying not to make too much of a mess. Bem and Kola choose the roasted goat and spinach, eating more meat than I think 2 people possibly could. Kola's mother watches us all, a faint smile at her son's face as she orders the last dish to be brought out. Shredded fried coconut fills the air with its sweet tang as Kola's eyes widen. I eat a little, urged on by him, and as the warm white meat of the coconut melts on my tongue, I stifle a groan of appreciation. When the food is finished, servants with solemn faces clear the platters as we get to our feet. Kola draws his mother in for a tight embrace, her head only reaching his chest. We'll be back later today, he murmurs. When he releases her, she holds him at arm's length, drinking him in. You are not wearing white? Kola's mother asks as she examines his wrapper, a small line between her eyes. No, Iya. Kola shakes his head, and neither will you. I'm not going to mourn Taiwo and Kahindi. I'm going to bring them home. Well, hello there, little man. What a little cutie. Should we go ahead with chapter 16? What does everybody think? Is it a good place to stop, do you think? Well, who's here? I think it's just Carrie and December. Jasper, you find another bag. Oh, look at this big boy. He is now 16 pounds. Look at this little cutie. He's so cute. Well, you're just gonna bite me? You're just gonna bite me? Only a little love bite.
Oh, jeez.
He is. He's a big boy. He's a big boy. All right, so what does everybody think? Should we do one more chapter or should we wrap it up? I'm okay either way. Huge and bitey with a tiny nubbin. Always going back to his bag. Well, you think about it, talk amongst yourselves, and I will be right back.
Come here.
Jasper, are you singing?
Oh.
He's so darn precious. I can't even. So should we do one more chapter? I knew it, Julie. I knew it. She overslept. Well, Jasper wants to say, good morning, Miss Julie. Hello, Miss Julie. Hello. I know, I'm asking for it. I'm asking for it. Aw. Look at this sweet bundle of love. Oh, you're feisty. You're feisty. Don't flash your butthole at everybody. Come on, turn around. Hey, be nice. Be nice. He's waving with his little nubbin.
Leave him alone now.
Leave him alone, she says.
It's only gonna get worse.
Come on, Jasper. Come on. Oh, there he goes. All right, Julie, you'll catch the replay. Cool. Where's Scuzzlebutt? We haven't seen Scuzzlebutt today. December, that face. All right, I'm gonna do one more chapter. Chapter 16. What? Because nobody said. Yeah?
One more.
One more chapter. You're good with that? We're all good with that? Okay. Chapter 16. Kola plans on sailing down the river Ogun to where the Babalawo lives. 3 skinny rafts are moored at the side of the bank. Wood has been lashed together to make buoyant platforms, and a larger pole is attached to the ends to steer, but they look as if they could barely hold Issa, let alone someone like them. It's quicker if we take this route, Kola says as I eye the vessels. Trust me. They look even more insubstantial than the boat we had taken from Yamoja's island. But at least it'll just be the river we're dealing with. The river. A wide ribbon that snakes through the forest. Mud mixes with the scent of fresh water filtered through stones. And the burble of the water seems almost to be calling my name. I wish I could just dive in. My skin feels tight, the bones awkwardly arranged. Despite all the times I lay on Yamoja's island, letting memories of my human life come back to me, all I can think about now is being underneath the water's surface, tail flexing, scales flashing, free from worry, free from care. But I remember the fear on Kola's face when he first saw me, and the wrath on Yamoja's at the fact that I had revealed myself to a human. Kola's hand hovers at my elbow as we climb onto the raft. Careful, he says, and I recall the times I stumbled in front of him. Not now, I think, concentrating on where I place my feet until I can sit down at the front of the raft, far away from the water, lest the change begin. Although my legs are dry, the scales feel as if they are there, nudging at the surface of my skin. I rub at them, sliding fingers to my toes, squeezing them until they are numb. Can you hear Jasper in his bag? You getting comfy, Jasper? Look at him. Oh my goodness. Just take a picture. Yinka takes Issa on her raft, the Yumba waving at me from his perch at the front. He twists around to grin up at the girl, and I see her struggle not to respond to the blatant adoration on his face. Bem laughs at the tiny boy, feet wide apart, as he pushes his raft off from the bank, and I wonder how it can even stay afloat with such a giant on it. The river meanders, calm but fast-flowing, and I see why Kola chose to take this route. I stroke my soles in gratitude, watching the land as it passes us, alive with the screams of the white-throated monkeys and the trills of rhinoceros hornbills, their red-orange beaks flashing in the sunlight. Thank you. Kola's words are quiet, caught up in the swish of the water as he pushes the pole to steer us. I lift a hand to shade my eyes from the sun, buying time for a response that I'm not sure how to deliver. I know you need to get to the Babalawo. I know you need to get the rings. Kola pauses and I hear him haul on the pole. The scent of shea butter, laced with sweat, washes over me. I'm grateful for you. Come on, Jasper. Quit it.
Hey,
Yes?
you gotta move that, take that away. It's so loud on here.
I
You
know.
have no idea.
That's why I'm trying to move him.
Okay.
God, he's a little troublemaker.
Hold on, I'm taking this one away. You can have it back after the show.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
Where were we?
It's so loud on here, you wouldn't believe it.
Oh, I would believe it. I know you need to get to the Babalawo. I know you need to get the rings. Kola pauses and I hear him haul on the pole. The scent of shea butter, laced with sweat, washes over me. I'm grateful for you for seeing me to Oko. You didn't have to. I choose not to uncover my eyes. You're repaying me by taking me to the Babalawo now. I don't add that I'm grateful too, glad that he's still with me. I'm sorry, I say, guilt deepening my tone, about Taiwo and Kahindi. Don't be. Kola pushes down hard on the pole, grunting. He doesn't look at me. I'll get them back. I don't say anything else, and neither does he. The rest of the journey is filled with the stirred-up silt of the river, its rotting moss and ripples of epuya, their tail fins just visible at times. Issa chatters away, Yinka's answers intermittent, her voice lighter than I've heard it. Bem remains behind us, scanning the land, one sword free of its straps. When the river begins to widen out, Kola pulls to the side, wedging the raft against the soft, dark mud of the bank. Let's leave these here before the coastal current becomes too strong. Yinka and Bem follow suit, winding rope around the rafts, securing them together using a large oob tree, its purple yams hanging in small bunches. The forest is thick here, and Bem leads the way, using his sword to hack at the underbrush and the snaking vines that wind around red mangrove trees. No one else seems to find the ground hard to walk on, but my feet soon begin to hurt. I slow down, trying to pick the route that has the most earth. It's not far, says Kola softly as he falls back next to me. Just through the next grove, and the forest gives way to the sea. He runs his gaze over my legs, resting on my feet. The pain is back, and while it's dull at the moment, I know that I've already begun to limp slightly. I push ahead of him, determined not to hold us back. The trees begin to thin, and I breathe a prayer of relief to Yamoja as the sound of the sea winds its way through a copse of banana trees. A rolling shush of water that sounds like home. The ground becomes sandier, and we soon leave the forest behind for a beach that sweeps ahead of us. Bleached white, the sand glitters, stretching into waves that reach toward the land, their brown and white water fingers grasping for more. A small dwelling squats close to the tree line, just where the sea and the shore curve away together. The Babalawo has been our high priest and the one we consult for as long as I can remember, says Kola as he trudges across the sand. Did you bring him the wine? I did, answers Bem, patting the bag he has strung across his back. The Babalawo would never speak to us without it, he chuckles. This I know as surely as the sky is blue. The air fills with a tinkling that changes with the breeze, and as we get closer, I see the shells that are strung around the small circular building. Dangling from a roof made of large banana leaves, they knock against one another, creating a delicate melody that blends in with the sounds of the sea. The dwelling is simple, with walls made of tan clay and a plain woven fabric hanging from the arched entranceway. I think of Yamoja's assurances that the Babalawo will give me the rings, and I inhale deeply. The twins' disappearance has sowed seeds of worry, and now that I am finally here, I am fearful that I am about to reap them. Kola, if it's all right, I'll go first, I say, my voice carrying over the others. Yinka glowers at me, but I ignore her. It is not just the twins at stake. Here, take this and let me know when you are ready for me to come in, says Kola, passing me the palm wine. I nod at his understanding as I take the flask. I think of the scars on Yamoja's cheeks, and then I am pushing aside the fabric, entering the cool darkness all in one movement. My eyes take a moment to adjust to the gloom before I see the man sitting in the center of the room. Swaddled in a fine wrapper so yellow that it almost appears gold, the Babalawo is smaller than I expected. He is bald apart from one tuft of curling white hair at the back of his head, which matches a thick beard the same color. Tiny black eyes fix on me from the folds of skin that are spotted with age and the sun. Greetings, child. I bend down, touching the floor before his feet and placing the wine on the swept hard floor. The dwelling is spacious, with a cooking pot neatly stored to the side and a red and orange sleeping mat on the other. The sea can still be heard, a constant rush of water that sounds like slow whispers. Dried bitter leaves hang from hooks, and bark and berries are piled neatly on a low table underneath. Their sharp smells are comforting, reminding me of the medicines used by the Babalawo in Oyoile, but it is not the scents that hold my attention. Carved into the clay are the swirls of a sea that wraps around the inner walls. Curlicues and waves wind their way around 7 girls with tails, their hair tight coils, adorned with pearls and shark's teeth. Mami Wata. Kola was right when he spoke of the priest to Yamoja. Is Mother Yamoja well, or is she the reason you are here? Relief fills me as I straighten up, swinging my gaze back to the Babalawo. I'm confronted with a gap-toothed smile that pulls the loose skin of his face into even more complicated wrinkles. The Babalawo beckons me closer, thick gold bracelets on both wrists clinking together softly. Shafts of sunlight pierce the roof and shine onto the old man so that he sparkles. How did you know? I can sense the Orisa magic on you, he answers, his lilting voice rising at the end as if his words are a song. Even the scent of your blood is of salt and sea, not to mention the jewel at your throat. My fingers go to the sapphires sliding over the facets. I carved 7 of them, sanctified them all. I would know one anywhere. The Babalawo pats the floor. Sit, child of the sea, and tell me why you have come this far. Unnerved, I settle on the packed down earth, crossing my legs underneath me in a way that I know I used to do with ease. Now I have to think of every move, every bone and muscle to make sure I'm doing it right. Yamoja sent me. I did something, and now I must make it right. My chest feels tight as I think of the covenant between Yamoja and Olodumare, the one I broke. I hold a hand to my face and wipe at my cheeks as if I can stave off the tears I feel coming. What, child? The Babalawo's voice is deep and soft, suffusing his words with warm concern. What did you do? I took someone from the sea. You saved a life? I nod, but I didn't know of Olodumari's decree, of the punishment Yamoja and all Mamiwata will face. My voice lowers to a whisper as tears slip down my cheeks. The death. The unmaking. The Babalawo leans back, sucking at his bottom lip. He places his hands in his lap and looks down at me. You have come for the rings of Ile Ife. I sniff, wiping at my face and sitting up straighter. Yes, Yamoja said it's the only way I can summon Olodumare so I can ask for forgiveness. The Babalawo rocks backward slowly. My child, I am sorry. His smile dissolves, but I do not have them anymore. His words settle like stones in my stomach. You don't have the rings? No. The old man shakes his head. I did, until a week ago, and then they were claimed. I sit for a moment, unable to move as my reality crashes down upon me. What will I do now? A sickness churns through me, and I bend over, wrapping my arms around my abdomen. I stare at the packed down earth of the floor, my vision wavering with the gathering of tears. How can I go back to Yamoja and tell her this? The Babalawo holds out a hand to me. His fingers are bent, knuckles swollen. Come here, child, please. There's no way to make amends for what I have done, and now Yamoja and the other Mamiwata will suffer for it. When I still can't move, when the tears come and I hear myself sob, the Babalawo eases himself from his low stool and enfolds me in his thin arms. I clutch at his wrapper, the scent of musk and bitter leaf strong. I can still hear the sea outside, and it speaks to me more powerfully than ever. The waves breaking loudly now, a crashing call that I can't answer. There is still a way, says the Babalawo, crooked fingers patting my back. I don't look up. I can tell that my face is swollen and wet, and the shame I feel goes deep, deeper than crying and being comforted by such a Babalawo. What have I done? In saving Kola, I have condemned my own kind. I hear someone enter, but I still don't look up. See me. Hands take hold of my shoulders, pulling me back against hot skin. It's all right. Kola. I turn in his arms and press my face against his chest, and even in that choice, I hate myself, because I have a feeling that I might still have saved him even if I had known the consequences. How could I have let anyone die in the sea? I heard what the Babalawo said, but did you really listen to him? There's another way. His lips are by my ear, voice as comforting as faded cotton. Don't give up now. I won't let you. I don't answer. I let the salt of my tears mix with the scent of sweat and black soap that is Kola. I keep my face pressed against his skin and breathe him in until I am partly calmed. What other way is there, I ask, my voice scratchy. Despair sticks in my throat like a crooked fishbone. I turn to see the Babalawo sit back on his stool, arranging the folds of his wrapper. A long, thick gold chain hangs outside it, set with an emerald the size of a bird's egg. The twins are unique. It was confirmed in the ceremony, asked Kola, his voice rising with hope. Yes. After you were taken, your parents brought them to me on the allotted day. The Babalawo turns his small eyes on Kola, lips pursed thoughtfully. We already suspected their rareness, but while initiating the ceremony, the truth of it was fully confirmed. They are Orisa incarnate, I say quietly, unwinding myself from Kola's arms to hold the priest's gaze. Yes, the Ibeji have indeed manifested in them, two with one soul, rainmakers, bringers of prosperity and health. He raises a hand covered in darker brown patches and touches a finger to the jewel at his own throat. And the reason Oko and the surrounding lands thrive. 2 rings, both with immense power. The realization is enough to make me sit up straight. You gave them to the twins. The rings, I mean. 1 each. The Babalawo exhales and then nods. I did, just as I gave the sapphires to Yamoja. The stones speak for themselves, and they chose the Ibeji. But there is more. As well as holding great potency, they are amplifiers. The elder stops, his face bathed in light. Whichever Orisa has them, their power is strengthened. How much? Asked Kola. The true extent is not known, but it is of unimaginable magnitude. When the twins were born, they connected with the earth, and Oko and the surrounding lands have flourished. But with the twins in possession of the rings, all lands will thrive. The Babalawo's eyes light up, his wrinkled mouth unfolding into a smile. All of them. And with that, perhaps a way to peace. Enough food for everyone, health, more trade, a chance of unity not seen before. I am silent a moment. It makes perfect sense, and I see why he would have given the rings to the twins. But if I can't use the rings, it means the death of Yamoja and our kind. Simidele, murmurs the Babalawo, seeing my face fall. Do not despair. I wasn't able to protect the twins from Esu, but I was able to bind them to the rings in life and death. None can remove or use them unless they permit it. They can also still be used to summon Olodumare, but first you will need to find them. So Esu really did take them? Asked Kola, standing, his head nearly scraping against the leaves of the roof. He did. What of the protection you promised my parents? Kola's words are threaded with frustration. My ceremony was strong enough against the Tapa, but an Orisa as powerful as Esu? No. Kola moves closer to the Babalawo, his hands twitching. The old man does not move, just watches as Kola's hands graze the sword at his side. I know Kola wants a reason to be angry with someone, but this is not right. Just as I am about to pull him back to me, Kola kneels before the old man, touching the ground near the toes of the Babalawo. My apologies for being disrespectful. Kola lifts his head, tears shimmering in his gaze. Please, tell us how to get them back. He glances at me and then back at the Babalawo, the twins and the rings. I creep forward so that I am next to Kola. Where has Esu taken them? The elder places both swollen hands on his knees and stares past us at the murals on the walls. The only sound is the sea, which has died down to a low swish and hush. I understand your pain, both of you. He lifts a hand and twirls a gnarled index finger in the air, gesturing to the images behind us. Esu has taken them to his island. Why? Asks Kola. I think of Esu, of his discontent and his hunger for more, of his search, which Oya and the Yumbos have both described. Power amplified. Dread shoots through me, slithering down my spine. He wants the rings of Ile Ife, I say quietly. He does, but since the twins are bonded to them, he will have to try to persuade them to offer them up to him. What would he want with them, I ask, twisting my fingers nervously. What about his duty to Olodumare? With the rings would come the amplification of all of Esu's powers. The Babalawo twists a heavy golden bracelet behind the bones of his wrists, swollen knuckles quivering. And he would not have a duty to Olodumare. Instead, he would be able to rival the supreme god. He would not have to pass on any messages, would not have to listen to Olodumare or any of their decrees. He could do whatever he wanted, I whisper, my voice shaking with horror at the Babalawo's words. I think of what Umoja said about the Orisa's greed and jealousy. Yes, answers the Babalawo, his voice cracking. Esu has long been tired of being Olodumare's messenger. He craves more than he already has, more than passing on the prayers of mankind. The old priest sucks air through the gap in his teeth. If he obtains the rings, his power will be such that he will be worshipped with as much reverence as the supreme god, have as much influence over humankind and Orisas. With no one to answer to, he'll be free to do anything he wants. Perhaps he would do good, I ask, hope lifting my voice. He's not evil. He keeps the balance between the Ajogun and Orisas. This brings a level of peace to the world. He does, but what if he decided not to do this anymore? On a whim, or just for his own entertainment? There is no telling. That is the gamble. We've all heard the stories of the arguments started by Esu between brothers, neighbors, kings, and queens, but think on this. The Babalawo leans toward us, his gaze piercing as his voice grows lower still. Olodumare has always been the greater force, there to keep him in check. With the power the rings give, Esu could bring chaos to the whole world and no one would be able to stop him. I shiver at the Babalawo's words, at the thought of the world at Esu's mercy. What will happen to the twins after Esu takes the rings? Kola's shoulders hunch slightly as if his body already knows the answer. He won't stop until he possesses them. Afterward, I can't be sure, but they would no longer be needed. The Babalawo turns to Kola. Their lives as your brother and sister are important, but so are their ties to the land. What do you mean, I ask, but already my mind is whirring, thinking of my vision and what he'd told us earlier. Do not forget the twins' connection to the earth. They are the reason our lands are bountiful, the reason it is so alive. And so without them, I remember the fear of the elephants as they fled, the twisted black branches of the trees at the edge of the forest, the brown not already beginning to infect the plants around Kola's village. My vision, the bones and their bleached sharpness, Yumbos and humans. Without the Abeji, the crops will die, as will animals and people. There will be famine of a proportion we have not seen in 1,000 years. And Oko? The Babalawo strokes his chin, hand shaking. Oko will be unable to exist, and the chance of health for the rest of the land will be lost. And that concludes chapter 16. How's everybody doing? Yeah, Jasper got quiet. We had to take away all the bags. He was just getting into everything and making so much noise. I don't know. Oh, there he is. Looking out the window now. Kicking back. Right, Jasper? You watching the birdies? All right. We made it to page 178. And we are at 56% completion of this book. Pretty cool. Are y'all still enjoying it? Jill, you're going to go back and watch the replay so you can catch up. All right. Well, I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Don't forget, tomorrow is Social Justice Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Only happens once a month, so I hope to see ya. Have a wonderful day. Peace out, Pradadoodles.